Hi, this is Jason with Violator Comics Collectibles coming at you with another toy review. And this time we're taking a look at the Dick Tracy figure from the Dick Tracy toy line from Playmates Toys from 1990. So the first thing we're going to do is take a closer look at the packaging. Take a look at the Dick Tracy figure packaging. You know, this is something I remember as a child. It's very iconic to me. It's got that bright yellow packaging with the Dick Tracy logo on the top. You know, this is something I remember seeing in the toy stores and remember fondly as a kid. And I think it just looks great. I mean, it says Dick Tracy, Coppers and Gangsters, kind of the sub-line of the toy line name. And then we have a nice picture of Dick Tracy with the little watch. And on all the characters, it has the watch calling Dick Tracy, and it has a little saying down here when it gives you the name of each character. And this one says, "Calling Dick Tracy, the chief needs you at HQ on the QT." You know, some of the other ones would say, you know, this is like Big Boy, and it would kind of give a little thing about him, what he's doing, or, you know, where he's robbing. I think that's a really cool touch. And it's got a really nice, you know, it's got the nice bubble packaging that shows the figure and what you get. I think, you know, this looks very, very cool. Let me flip him over and try and get him to stand up, because these don't stand up very well. I might have to hold it. But you got the Dick Tracy logo up top, and it has a little synopsis of Dick Tracy. Shows his office with like the chili cooking, which looks really cool. It's got a little comic strip. All of them have a little comic strip for like that character, as well as it shows all the toys in the toy line. And then it also has, with the bad guys, it has basically like a public enemy thing where it actually has an actual picture of the toy and not just a drawing of the character, and it shows all the different things like the weapons they use, all the aliases and all that stuff. And for Dick Tracy, it has police profiles and courage, you know, his name, his rank, the weapons he uses, like a Colt 45 and a billy club, even though he didn't use a billy club in the movie. But I think everything looks really, really cool in this. Like I said, it's a really nice touch the way they did the comic strips and stuff. This is the classic style packaging that I remember as a kid. I love this stuff where they give you a little stuff to read. You know, it's really, really, you know, creative the way they actually took a picture of the toy and not just the drawing of Dick Tracy. And it also shows pretty much it shows every figure in the toy line other than the two vehicles, which I think are really cool. But I'm not going to actually open this one up. I actually have one opened up. It's actually the one that has a child. I'm actually going to keep this one in package. But let's take a look at that guy. So getting Dick Tracy out of package, one of my favorite childhood toys. I absolutely love this guy. Now, this toy line gets a lot of scrutiny because of the overemphasized features and the fact that they copied after the body style of a Ninja Turtle. But Playmates Toys made the Ninja Turtles 2 years prior in 1988, and this guy came out in 1990, and they were banking off the success of that and hoping that that style figure would be really popular. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like this, but I enjoy this figure quite a lot. A lot of my criticism now just comes from being a collector and just looking at it overall and saying what I would want or didn't want in the figure. But I mean, overall, everything looks good on him. Obviously, he's got his iconic yellow hat, which looks really, really nice. He doesn't have his cloak, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and that's, I think, probably a misstep when it comes to this figure. But there's also some issues with that as well. But I think everything looks good. I mean, down to his vest and his tie with the black and stuff like that and the red. There's pretty much one scene in the Dick Tracy movie where he's sitting at a desk and he looks like this, and that's where they made this figure look like. You can see he's got some handcuffs in his vest. He's got his little police badge, which looks great. He comes with 3 accessories. He comes with a shoulder holster, which you can also put around his waist as a belt, but I think it looks cooler as a shoulder holster. He comes with his Colt 45. This is the one. There's 3 different guns in this toy line. There's this one. There's just a slightly smaller handgun that has a brown handle, and then there's the 38 Special that has a black handle. But I mean, pretty decent. And then he comes with the Billy Club, which he didn't use. I really wish this guy would have come with a Tommy gun. I think that's a huge misstep, especially since a lot of the marketing and the trailers for the movie show him with his Tommy gun. And he comes with a Billy Club, and I'm really not sure why they did that. He never used it. It looks good. It's got that molded look to make it look like wood and like it's been worn. Most importantly, he's got his iconic watch on his wrists. They thank God didn't forget that, because that would have been really, really sad. And then he's also got his shoes down here, which are pretty bland, but they are molded pretty good. So, like some of the gangsters have those two-tone colors to match their outfits, really make it pop. But he didn't have that in the movie, so, I wasn't expecting anything more for this figure. And on the back, pretty standard, just got his vest and his shirt. It does have a little white strip painted where, like, his vest would tie back, which I think is cool. I mean, they could have just left that black and nobody probably would have cared, but they took the extra step to paint that guy, which is pretty cool. But let's take a close look at each part. Take a look at his face. It's got the over-the-top facial features this toy line is known for. I mean, I guess it's harder for him to do just a standard-looking character and and make it fit in the toy line, and that's why his face looks the way it does. When you have characters like Flat Top, the brow, Influence, with those ridiculously overemphasized facial features and stuff like that, and then they have to put like a regular character, they still try and make it fit in that toy line. So a lot of people hate the way his face looks, and I don't mind it in all honesty. Obviously, he's got his really nice yellow fedora, which is iconic for Dick Tracy. I think it looks great. The color is just absolutely top-notch the way it looks. Here you can see his midsection, so you can see all that stuff with his badge. You can see his handcuffs and stuff like that. You can see the tie. One thing I do like is with this over-the-shoulder holster, a lot of the ones like the ammo belts for the gangsters are very smooth as far as the molding. This actually almost has a molded texture to make it look like a rough leather, and I think that's really cool that they did that. His Colt looks great. I mean, it's pretty cool. All the characters on their right hand pretty much have like a trigger finger that kind of sticks out, but none of the guns fit that. So you kind of have to have the gun sitting above the trigger finger, so the finger can't actually slide into the guard, which is unfortunate, but it's just he's got some hefty hands. But I think the gun overall looks really, really good. And then we take a look, we see the Billy Club, and it's got like little niches in the what should be, supposed to be wood molded look to it. So it definitely looks like it's been worn. And then his shoulder holster, which can go on his waist, which I like on his shoulder. You can actually take the gun out of his hand, and this guy slides in there very well, which is really cool. And I think the accessories for this toy line are some of the most popular. They look cool with the Tommy guns and all that stuff, and the Colts, and it's got the Billy Clubs, and there's spiked bats, and there's money bags, and there's dynamite stuff. I mean, there's nooses. I mean, they really went over the top with this stuff, and I think it's really, really cool. Take a look at his shoes. Pretty plain. Like I said, they are molded to look like they have the laces and stuff like that in there and stuff, so everything looks good, but it doesn't look as amazing as some of the gangsters with their two-tone shoes that just stand out, trying to match the outfit. But then again, he is a police officer, and they're not crazy flashy. Obviously, Dick Tracy wore yellow, so he definitely stood out. But the gangsters had all the matching attire and stuff like that, and the shoes that matched the shirts, and this guy doesn't have that. But he didn't have it in the movie, so I wasn't expecting it in the toy. The last thing I'll really talk about before I do the size comparison is probably my biggest complaint with this figure, and it's something that's pretty much come now, not when I was a child, because as a child I just thought it was an awesome toy. He doesn't have his iconic trench coat, you know, that yellow coat. I mean, it's almost inexcusable for this figure that they didn't do that or do something, you know, with that, or even release more than one figure. I mean, that's a popular idea nowadays where they have, you know, the main characters like Batman has different looks and stuff like that, that they'd release multiple figures to kind of show that if they wanted to have a uncloaked one and then this one. I mean, it's really unfortunate. I mean, to me, Dick Tracy without his trench coat is like Batman without a cape. I mean, it's just weird. Now, that being said, you know, the devil's advocate in me, you know, does think that there would also be some major logistical issues with this because it is a hard plastic figure. This is really before they started making cloth cloaks and stuff like that for the most part. I mean, you did see that in the Ninja Turtle toy line, but, you know, a lot of other toy lines didn't have that, and it's probably expensive to do. They probably could have done some kind of cloth trench coat. I've even seen reviews and people when they discuss this toy line where one gentleman, his mom was a seamstress and actually made like a cloak for Big Boy and Dick Tracy, and they looked really cool. They were big, poofy, and they made the figure just look absolutely amazing and be something that, you know, if somebody actually make those and sell those on eBay, they'd probably sell quite a bit of them because, I mean, it would really make this figure stand out in your collection. But the logistical issues is the only character in the whole toy line that has that actual like overcoat or trench coat is the Blank, which is the most ridiculous figure to find because of the way they actually held that figure back, because they didn't want it to give away the plot point, because the mask actually came off and would show that it was breathless underneath that, which is, you know, understandable. And then that figure, because the toy line didn't do so well, they didn't release it in the United States because toy stores weren't actually purchasing more cases of these, so you never saw them. So they basically took that stock and gave it to Sears in Canada as an exclusive. And there was some mail ordering with that figure, but that's really all you really see with that figure is that it was in Canada. And it's extremely hard to find, it's extremely expensive. But with that being said, that one figure actually had a cloak, you know, because it was all black figure. It actually had a trench coat that actually came down here, and it was all hard molded, but it took away all the articulation in the legs. There's no articulation in the legs in the Blank. It's one of those things where there's not many reviews on the internet, but if you can find the right one, you can actually see there's no articulation there. So they would have lost that. And I think with the main character, and, you know, they made a Dick Tracy car, he wouldn't be able to fit in that. You know, I think that's why they probably chose that route. I mean, I guess they could have done something with one of the other characters where they just made, instead of doing a trench coat, they could have made him all yellow, you know, and like kind of take this concept of the outfit and maybe done it that way, or at least molded the trench coat shorter or like that. But I still think it would have looked kind of funny and it wouldn't look as good. So I understand why they did it. I just wish they would have released a secondary Dick Tracy with that overcoat, even if it had the restricted articulation. That way you still had one that would fit in the car. For size comparison, here we have Dick Tracy next to Big Boy, you know, from the same Dick Tracy toy line. And, you know, Dick Tracy definitely looks taller, but when you really look at it where the heads line up, they're about the same size. Just he has that hat that sticks up so much higher. So they're about the same size. They fit in his scale. Now, obviously, these were, you know, mainly molded after the Ninja Turtle toy line. That Playmates was definitely trying to ride the lightning and the cash cow, essentially, of the Ninja Turtle toy line. As we put like a Ninja Turtle out here, you could see, I mean, the way that Raphael stands here, I mean, you could definitely see what they were going for. I mean, it's so obvious, it's unbelievable. But, you know, it did sell well, which is unfortunate, which is the reason why the Blank is such a hard figure to find. But I love this toy line. It's something that I remember as a kid. I love the accessories. I mean, if you want like gangsters, cops, and robbers, the accessories are absolutely top notch in this toy line. And the fact that there's so many bad guys would give, you know, kids, and when I was a kid, there's so many options to play with Dick Tracy tracking down more than one character instead of just having like one or two bad guys and, you know, a ton of good guys, which you normally see in toy lines. You have the exact opposite, which is, you know, welcomed, very welcomed, and I wish they did that more today. Like I said, I really wish they had an alternate version of Dick Tracy with his coat. I mean, it's probably the biggest misfire of, you know, not just this toy, but the whole toy line is how could you possibly do that? I mean, and that's why a lot of people dislike this toy line, you know, and the over-the-top facial features and stuff like that, and the way that the characters are built. But I loved this as a kid. it's one of my favorite toys. You know, it's something that I'll hold on to forever. And you know, I remember playing with this guy as a child. And you know, I definitely recommend this figure as well as the toy line. I think they're just phenomenal, especially when you have them all lined up next to each other. But once again, this has been Jason with Violator Comics Collectibles. Any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and I will see you guys next time.